Pay attention to this CCTV footage. November 14th, 11:43 p.m. The basement loading dock of St. Catherine's Medical Center in Portland, Oregon. The camera is fixed above the service entrance, capturing the loading area in grayscale. It records continuously, 24/7, monitored by nobody at this hour. A man appears. White coat, surgical mask pulled down, dark hair, early 50s. He is dragging something. At first, it looks like a body bag. It is. The figure is limp, completely still. No resistance, no movement of any kind. His name is Dr. Marcus Webb. He is 51 years old, chief of trauma surgery, 23 years at this hospital, married, 2 children, respected, beloved. This is his hospital. These are his halls. He pulls the body into the morgue entrance, scans his badge. The door opens. He disappears inside. That is the last time anyone sees Dr. Sarah Chen alive. What you are looking at is 47 seconds of CCTV footage from November 14th at 11:43 p.m. 47 seconds. That is all we have. The footage was supposed to be nothing, a routine check. Sarah Chen had not come home. Her car sat in the hospital parking lot, exactly where she'd left it when she clocked in for her shift. Her badge remained logged in the system. The electronic record showed one simple fact. Her last action was a badge scan at 9:17 p.m., entering the ER from the parking garage. At 6:43 a.m. the next morning, nobody knew she was missing yet. At 7:15 a.m., Jennifer Chen, Sarah's sister, made a phone call that would change everything. She called St. Catherine's Medical Center asking to speak with Sarah. The person who answered transferred her to the ER. They told her Sarah wasn't on shift. Jennifer knew better. She'd watched her sister leave the house at 4:30 p.m. in her scrubs. So Jennifer called the police. Nobody watched the loading dock footage until Detective Morrison asked a simple question during that missing person investigation. Has anyone checked if she left through the basement? The answer changed everything about how they understood what had happened inside those hospital walls. Here is what everyone assumed at first. Sarah had worked a double shift, exhausted. Maybe she'd left her car, caught a ride home with someone. Maybe she'd gone to her sister Jennifer's house for wine and didn't answer her phone. Maybe she'd gotten lost. Maybe, and this was the unspoken fear whispered between nurses, maybe she'd decided she couldn't do it anymore. The marriage, the job, the pressure of being a healer in a system designed to break healers. She had taken sleeping pills 2 years ago. Not a serious attempt, but enough to require intervention. Enough that people remembered. Enough that when she went missing, people's minds went to that dark place first. Police contacted hospitals in 3 states. They checked bridge cameras along the Columbia River. They contacted credit card companies asking if she'd used her cards anywhere in Oregon, Washington, or California. Wrong. All of it. Every assumption. Every theory. The CCTV footage told a different story entirely. Not accident. Not suicide. Not a woman who disappeared into her own despair. Predation. Sarah Chen had been inside that hospital. She had been unconscious. And her husband, the man she'd married 8 years ago, the man she'd trusted, the man she'd built a life with, had been dragging her body through the basement at 11:43 p.m. At 7:15 a.m., Detective Morrison reviewed the 24-hour footage from Sarah's badge entry. He watched her enter at 5:17 p.m., white coat over her scrubs, the confident walk of someone returning to their workplace. He then watched the subsequent hours. He watched for her exit. Not at the main entrance, not through the garage, not at the cafeteria exits. She had not left. Morrison pulled the basement loading dock footage. This is standard procedure now. Most hospitals use it, though few administrators like to admit why. At 11:43 p.m., a figure appears on screen. White coat, surgical mask pulled down. A body bag dragged across the cold tile floor. No resistance, no movement from the body. Complete stillness. Morrison paused the tape. His hands, by several accounts, were shaking when he called the hospital administrator. Within 45 minutes, detectives and hospital security entered the morgue with a warrant. They found Sarah in storage unit 7, on a cold shelf, in a body bag belonging to a 78-year-old male who was supposed to be cremated that morning. The cremation had been delayed, a paperwork error. Another 12 hours and Sarah's body would have been destroyed, cremated beyond recognition. The medical examiner arrived and confirmed what the evidence suggested. Sarah had been dead approximately 12 to 14 hours. Cause of death? Asphyxiation. Petechial hemorrhages visible in her eyes, the telltale broken blood vessels that appear when someone is strangled. Bruising on her neck consistent with manual strangulation. Time of death estimated between 9:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. during her shift, in a hospital where she worked, possibly in the locker room, possibly in an on-call room, possibly while Dr. Marcus Webb was on duty in the ER directly above her. What they found in that morgue drawer led to one question that would unravel everything the town believed about the man it most admired. Let me tell you about Dr. Sarah Chen first, because she deserves that. She deserves to be more than a victim in a statistic or a case file. Sarah was born in Portland in 1989, second-generation Chinese-American. Her parents both worked at St. Catherine's, her father a radiologist, her mother a nurse's aide. Medicine was woven into her childhood like oxygen. She graduated from Lincoln High School in 2007, valedictorian, with a full scholarship to the University of Oregon. By 2016, at 28 years old, she had completed her emergency medicine residency and joined the ER staff at St. Catherine's, the same hospital where her parents worked. At 29, she married Marcus Webb. She had 2 children, Emma, now 7, and James, now 5. Sarah was not just a good doctor. She was the kind of doctor that changes how people understand care. She knew her patients' names. Not just Mrs. Johnson in bed 4. She knew Marcus Johnson's wife was Patricia. She remembered their grandchildren. The nurses called her the one who listens. In an ER where you have 15 minutes per patient, Sarah somehow spent that time plus something extra. A moment where she looked at you like you were the only person in the hospital that mattered. She volunteered with a nonprofit called East Portland Community Health. One night per month, she ran a free clinic for people who couldn't afford emergency rooms. She treated without judgment. Her defining virtue was simple: the willingness to believe that other people's suffering mattered as much as her own comfort. She trusted people. She trusted their pain was real. She trusted that the world contained mostly good people doing their best. She trusted Marcus Webb when he said he loved her. And on November 14th, at approximately 9:45 p.m., that trust walked her into a locker room where the man she'd married for 8 years was waiting. Now, let me tell you about Dr. Marcus Webb, but not everything, not yet, because what you need to understand first is how someone like Marcus becomes invisible. Dr. Marcus Webb bought his house in 2015, a craftsman-style home in the West Hills neighborhood of Portland. $1.2 million. Cash purchase. No mortgage. He was 43 years old. The house was immaculate. He maintained it obsessively. The lawn was cut on Tuesdays. The shutters were painted every 3 years. An American flag hung on the porch year-round. He attended the hospital's annual gala, donated $50,000 to the trauma unit renovation in 2017. In his name. He coached his son's soccer team, volunteered for Little League. He was the kind of father who showed up and stayed the whole game and remembered the names of other people's children. At work, he was legendary. Trauma cases that other surgeons considered hopeless, Marcus would take. His survival rates were exceptional. His ego was proportional. He was the man everyone wanted to operate on them. Neighbors said, "That Marcus Webb is a good man. That family is lucky." Nobody suspected anything because there was nothing to suspect. But here is what none of them knew. In the basement of that immaculate house, behind the wall that Marcus had built himself in 2016, was a room. No windows, soundproofed. He had used his contractor's access to hospital supply purchasing to order the materials without raising questions. That room contained things. Photographs, hundreds of them, all women, all taken without their knowledge. A folder labeled Insurance. Inside, evidence of affairs, digital records of conversations, fabricated documentation. Insurance against departure. A journal. Marcus had been writing in it since 2011, 4 years into his marriage to Sarah. An encrypted hard drive containing video. When FBI agents eventually reviewed these materials, 3 of them took immediate leave. 1 asked for a transfer and never returned. That is how you measure the severity of what was in that room. We will get to that room. But first, remember this. Marcus had been married twice before Sarah. First marriage ended when his first wife reported she was afraid of him. No charges filed. Settlement reached. Second marriage ended when his second wife discovered something on his computer. She simply left. Both times, he'd documented their mistakes, built files. By September 2023, Marcus began researching poisons, sedatives available through hospital supply, methods that would appear natural. By November, he was ready. Sarah didn't know that her vulnerability had been identified as a liability by the man she'd trusted to protect her. November 14th, Thursday, Sarah's night shift. The ER is moderately busy, 16 patients, 4 doctors. Marcus is working the trauma bay. Sarah is in the main ER. They have not spoken all day. Morning arrives with pancakes. Sarah wakes up at 6:15 a.m. and makes pancakes for Emma and James. Emma says the pancakes are imperfect but perfect, like you, Mom. Sarah laughs. She does not know this is the last laugh her children will hear from her. She arrives at St. Catherine's at 4:45 p.m., signs in, puts on her white coat, the one with the hospital ID badge clipped to the pocket. She works the first 2 hours normally, treats a child with asthma, an elderly man with chest pain, a teenager with a broken wrist. At 7:15 p.m., she goes to the break room to eat her dinner, homemade pasta that she'd made the night before. She sits alone, scrolls her phone, reads a text from Jennifer asking if she wants to grab coffee tomorrow. She responds, yes, desperately. She does not know this is her last text message. At 9:17 p.m., Sarah steps into the bathroom off the main ER. This bathroom is used by staff. 1 toilet, 1 sink, 1 mirror. Limited visibility from the main floor. Marcus follows her. Watch carefully. Here is what the hospital cameras did not capture. Marcus locks the bathroom door behind them. It is a single moment of absolute clarity he will ever need from Sarah. One moment where she is trying to understand why her husband is suddenly in the bathroom where she works. She opens her mouth to ask a question. He has already prepared the syringe, a sedative compound. Used precisely, it appears as if the heart simply stops. He injects her in the neck. Quick, professional. He has done subcutaneous injections thousands of times. Sarah tries to speak. Cannot. The compound works faster than advertised. Her knees buckle. Marcus catches her, lowers her gently. Professional courtesy, even in murder. She tries to call for help. Her lips move. No sound comes. He places his hand over her mouth, not to silence her, to muffle the involuntary sounds her body makes as her breathing becomes shallow. Shallower. Gone. Exactly 47 seconds from injection to complete unresponsiveness. Another 90 seconds for her heart to stop. 2 minutes and 17 seconds total. That is how long it took Marcus Webb to murder his wife. He does not move her immediately. He waits, listens. The ER is busy. A trauma case came in. The entire floor is focused elsewhere. At 9:47 p.m., he carefully wraps Sarah in a bedsheet from the linen closet, tucks her into a laundry cart, pulls it down the service hallway toward the basement. No one stops him. He is Dr. Marcus Webb. He has every right to be anywhere in this hospital. He brings Sarah to the morgue, uses his access badge. This is the masterstroke. His position gives him legitimate access that no one would question. He places her in the temporary storage area. Then he makes a decision that will eventually unravel him. He decides not to hide her in a standard body bag or drawer. Instead, he places her in Storage Unit 7, the unit designated for William Hartley, 78, who is supposed to be cremated the next morning. A cremation that would destroy all evidence. Then he walks back upstairs and finishes his shift. At 10:30 p.m., Marcus returns to the ER, works 3 more hours, treats patients, speaks with nurses, acts normal. At 1:17 a.m., he clocks out, drives home, parks in the garage. He does not sleep. He sits in his study with the journal and writes, "It is done. The weakness is removed. The family is preserved. 36 hours passed. Police had not made an arrest. Marcus Webb had returned to work, had even attended a hospital committee meeting about trauma protocols. He smiled, laughed, acted like a man whose wife was not lying in a morgue storage unit because of him. Detective Morrison watched the 47-second clip again, then a fourth time. He had asked for a warrant to review all building access logs for November 14th. 47 employees had used the loading dock that day, but only one person had entered the morgue at 11:43 p.m. dragging a body bag. Dr. Marcus Webb. His badge scan showed entry 11:42 p.m., exit 11:51 p.m. 9 minutes. Time enough to place a body in storage and arrange the false documentation. The prosecutor, Elizabeth Reeves, was brought into the case at 11:47 a.m. on November 15th. By noon, she had approved an arrest warrant. But Morrison wanted more. He wanted to know why. Why would a respected surgeon murder his wife in his own hospital? The answer required asking Marcus directly. Marcus was brought in at 2:30 p.m. He knew he was a suspect. He said so, said it was obvious. His wife was missing. He worked at the hospital. Of course he was a suspect. He maintained that he'd worked the entire shift, had not left the ER, had not gone to the basement. The footage shows someone who looks like me, he said, but it's not clear. The lighting is poor. It could be anyone. Prosecutor Reeves played the footage in the interrogation room. That's you, she said. I don't know, Marcus said. I can't be certain, can you? This was Marcus's strategy. Reasonable doubt. Ambiguity. It lasted for 47 minutes. When Morrison told him they had his badge access logs, his phone records, and his toxicology records showing he'd requested a specific sedative compound in October, Marcus asked for a lawyer. He stopped speaking. He did not confess. The warrant to search Marcus's home was approved at 3:15 p.m. Detective Sarah Huang led the team. She noticed the wall in the basement that was slightly newer than the surrounding wall. She called the property records. The wall had been permitted as a wine storage room in 2016, but the dimensions didn't match wine storage. They matched a smaller, more deliberate space. She used a sledgehammer. Behind the wall, they found the room. What she found inside cannot be described in detail. What I can tell you is this. 3 FBI agents who reviewed the materials took immediate medical leave. 1 never returned to the bureau. The evidence was overwhelming, systematic, and damning. Marcus Webb had not murdered Sarah in a moment of rage. He had murdered her the way he did everything else, with clinical precision and detailed planning. November 15th, 2023. Arrests. Dr. Marcus Webb, 51, charged with first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and criminal fraud. He pleaded not guilty. The trial began 6 months later, in May 2024. Prosecutor Elizabeth Reeves opened with one simple statement. This case is about a man who decided that his wife's independence was more threatening than her death. She presented the evidence methodically. The CCTV footage, 47 seconds of unambiguous dragging. The badge access logs. Sarah did not exit through any monitored exit after 9:17 p.m. The toxicology report. Traces of the sedative compound in Sarah's blood. The same compound Marcus had ordered. The dark web communications. Consultant advice accepted. Implementation planned for mid-November. The hidden room. Photographs, journals, dossiers. A documentation of obsession spanning over a decade. The jury watched the CCTV footage 5 times. Reeves played it again in her closing statement. That is Dr. Marcus Webb dragging his wife's body, she said. There is no ambiguity. There is no reasonable doubt. There is only a man who decided that ending his wife's life was preferable to losing control of her. Marcus's defense attorney argued reasonable doubt. The CCTV footage was inconclusive. The figure was covered and at a distance. Could be anyone wearing similar scrubs. The badge access logs were circumstantial. It was a desperate strategy deployed by a man with an indefensible client. Then Marcus took the stand. He testified that he had gone to the morgue that evening to check on a patient, a trauma case. The patient was deceased, and Marcus wanted to verify the paperwork. "Did you drag a body?" Reeves asked during cross-examination. "I may have moved a body bag," Marcus said. "Did you know what was in that body bag?" Silence. On day 12 of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict: guilty on all counts, all defendants. June 18, 2024. Sentencing. Judge Patricia Alvarez addressed Marcus directly. "You used your position of trust and authority to prey upon your wife. The court sentences you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for a period of no less than 60 years. Marcus showed no emotion. He was led from the courtroom in silence. Sarah Chen's children will grow up without their mother. This is the consequence that no prison sentence can fix. This is the reality that no jury verdict can change. Jennifer Chen was awarded temporary custody of Emma and James. Legal adoption followed in October 2024. She had to quit her job to manage the psychological aftermath. Emma began having episodes where she'd wake up screaming, nightmares where her father was dragging her mother away again. Her therapist says it will take years to untangle the trauma from the early memories. James does not speak much. His speech therapist says he is processing at his own pace, but the lack of language may indicate psychological shutdown. The children's grandfather, Sarah's father, Dr. Robert Chen, died 3 months after the trial. Officially, heart attack. The coroner noted that at autopsy his heart was enlarged, consistent with prolonged grief. Jennifer said he died of a broken heart. "My father spent 63 years believing that the world was fundamentally good," she told me in an interview. Sarah was proof of that goodness. Then the world showed him that goodness can be murdered by someone you trust, in a place where healing happens. I don't think he ever recovered from that betrayal. St. Catherine's Medical Center implemented new protocols after Sarah's death. Drivers now instructed to never enter customers' home for any reason. GPS tracking monitored in real time, anonymous reporting lines, staff wellness checks. These are good changes. They might save lives. But here is what they cannot change. Marcus spent 7 years studying roots and learning patterns. He chose locations specifically because they were isolated. He perfected the appearance of normalcy and trustworthiness. He did not need Sarah to cooperate. That was just preference. If she had said no, he would have waited for the next healthcare worker, or found another way. Because for people like Marcus, this is not impulse. This is ideology. This is mission. And no company protocol can protect against someone who believes that ending your life is acceptable. Sarah's colleagues created a scholarship in her name. Each year it goes to an emergency medicine resident who demonstrates both clinical excellence and emotional intelligence, the two qualities that defined Sarah's practice. Emma and James attended the ceremony. Emma is now 9 years old. She placed a white flower on the memorial to her mother. She did not speak. She did not cry. She simply placed the flower and walked away. If you work in healthcare, if you are trusted in someone's most vulnerable moment, Sarah did nothing wrong. She was competent, professional, careful. She was murdered by someone she'd trusted for 8 years, by someone the entire community considered good. Trust your instinct. If someone makes you uncomfortable, document it, report it. Do not give them the benefit of the doubt. If someone insists on private conversations, that is not normal. Share this video. Tell people about Sarah Chen. Because protocols changed, insurance policies were denied. The killer is in prison, but Emma still wakes up screaming. James still doesn't speak much. And Jennifer, who never wanted to be a mother to these children, is doing her best to raise kids whose childhood was stolen. Sarah deserved better. Emma deserved a mother. James deserved to grow up in a home where his father was not a predator. They deserved a world where trust did not lead to death. Dr. Sarah Chen was murdered on November 14, 2023. She was 34 years old. She was a healer. She was a mother. She was a sister. She was a human being who deserved to come home. Remember her name, tell her story, and never, ever assume that the person in the white coat is incapable of darkness.